Greetings to everyone. I'm Pooja Gupta, Growth Marketing Manager at Datagaps, and I would like to thank you all for joining us today. Today get Datagaps and Testing Experts partner webinar. You all must have been struggling with broken dashboards, data anomalies, and unreliable analytics. In this today's webinar, we will discover how leading enterprises are transforming their data quality strategies with automation, anomaly detection, and continuous validation, and learn to enable end-to-end monitoring, empower teams with low-code tools, and ensure data trust at scale. And we'll also see real-world results like 95% data accuracy and how our customers have achieved 40 to 60% time savings. On the panel today, we have Anand Rao, VP of Product Marketing at Datagaps, and Jatin Molri, VP of Client Services at TestingXperts. With this, I hand this over to Anand. Anand and Jatin, you both have the spotlight now.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We are very excited. As you can see, it's a joint webinar between Datagaps and TestingXperts. We're very excited about this partnership between us. And so, as Pooja mentioned, we'll explore how data turns from a liability into a strategic asset and ensure it's trustworthy, consistent, and actionable through modern data quality monitoring and management practices. So we'll cover some real use cases, some live examples, and show how Datagaps is scalable and how TestingXperts will help you get value from Datagaps. So as we dive in, please enter your questions and we'll try to get to as many as possible. So here's a quick agenda of what we're going to be following. We'll start with setting the context and why this topic matters, what challenges business are facing today, what's changing in the world of data quality and automation. We'll next move into the business impact and the ROI. So how better testing processes directly translate into cost savings, reduce risk, and increase trust in all the analytics and operations that you have. Then I'll walk you through the Datagaps platform and the overall solution. You'll see how Datagaps Suite works across ETL, BI, test data management to ensure reliable data pipelines end-to-end. And after that, we'll explore governance and integration. So how Datagaps fits into the broader data ecosystem and supports the compliance and collaboration across different teams. Then we'll showcase some real-world proof points. We'll share some customer stories and use cases from different sectors like finance, healthcare, and retail to show how these ideas result in real results. And then we'll talk about the partnership that we have with TestingXperts and Datagaps, how we work together as a technology partner and a service provider to scale the delivery and support innovation across your data stack. And finally, we'll end with a call to action, giving you concrete next steps to explore how Datagaps and TestingXperts can help in your environment, including how to engage us after this session. So let's get started. So Jatin, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Anand, and thank you everyone for joining in today. Good morning, good evening, everyone. My name is Jatin Molri. I'm VP Client Services at TestingXperts and definitely a key member of data quality practice at TX. So before we touch upon some of the challenges and the potential solutions on data quality, I'll take a step back and then probably discuss how the data quality evolution originated. I mean, when we think about pre-2000s, when this era boomed up of converting your physical assets to digital assets, every enterprises, every organization, they wanted to get into the digital world by converting their physical to digital assets. And eventually, by the time they reached, 2010s, 2015, they realized, the more focus is toward digitalization, but less focus towards data quality because of the data challenges, the outputs that they were getting were not, appropriate. Whether it's inconsistent data, whether it's a missing data, or whether the reports were not accurate. They started seeing some consequences, and there when the focus towards data quality came in. And if you remember, I mean, those era, the several enterprises, started focusing towards an automated way of building data quality suites. Whether it's end-to-end validations, whether it's the health check of the data, whether it's the governance, whether it's compliance, the several frameworks, governance bodies, ISO, DMMI, DAMA, all those standards, governance bodies got formed, and they published their own regulatory norms, making sure that the data, whichever is being, processed, or the data which is being digitalized, or the data being consumed, everything has to be as per the standards. And by the time we're reaching 2025 and beyond, there's the huge innovations being done in this space. Everybody is hearing this these days, the word around agentic architectures, multi-agent architectures. Everyone is aware of this LLMs and SLMs that are being leveraged at the back. But then, the market is moving towards, the trend that's moving towards is autonomous data quality checks. The day is not so far, and that's something what we are envisioning from now. In the coming years to come, we'll see an autonomous approach towards running those automated quality suites automatically, self-heal those scripts without human interruptions or with some human interruptions. And then eventually the agents can run all your quality suites and give you all the defects. So which is happening today to an extent, which is still under an innovation roadmap. And that's something what I want to touch upon, like how this and where the market trend is going towards in data quality, and where we are foreseeing a huge gap between the business, between the IT, and how we're trying to bridge those gaps to make sure that eventually the output that you're getting from the data that's is 100% accurate. Now, moving towards the next slide, if I talk about some of the challenges. So before I go into challenges, let me talk a very fundamental concepts of data quality. Broadly speaking, it revolves around three main pillars, which is data accuracy, data comprehensiveness or completeness, or timeliness. Now, when I say accuracy, accuracy means the data reflects a real world truth. So you have a data, but how to make sure it's trustworthy. And that's something is the common challenge we hear from our, clients, our customers. Like, we are running some kind of, testing elements. We have some Python scripts. We have some open source stacks there, but we are still not, the data is not reliable. And that's where, your whether your email address is not incorrect, which is popping up into your, campaigns, which is, which is providing damage to your customer trust, or you're, derailing your marketing campaigns. In terms of completeness, when I go there, the data is missing. The transaction records are there, but, it's not complete at all. The unification is not there, or it's violating the compliance. So, or in timeliness, if it's the data is not current, or maybe there is change management happening at some level at the source, but while this change management is happening, the data is not being reflected at the reporting layer on time, and it fuels real time operations, modern analytics, and agile responses, and that's something what's the need of the hour today. So together, if you combine these three pillars, whether it's accuracy, comprehensiveness, and timeliness, it gives you an eventual goal. If you for end-to-end data validations, then you need an automated way to monitor these checks, which we call it as a continuous monitoring and observability. And then you need some smarter way through which you can run those scripts, which we call it as intelligent automation. And when you combine these three pillars together, it gives you an end-to-end quality matrices. And on top of it, you have to have some mechanism to go on the data, whether it's your policies you're writing down in some particular governance tool, and then you're implementing through your data testing and validation tool, or you are writing down, you are having your own in-house process of writing down those security policies, and then you are inheriting them to your data testing tools or validation tools. It depends on how the organizations shape up, but that's something is the need of the hour, which gives you 100% accurate data, which everybody is looking at. Moving to the next slide, if I go towards the use of data, or I would say, in the first slide I touched upon the significance of using AI in data quality landscape. Now I want to touch upon significance of data quality in the AI landscape. So I mentioned about using agents in the data quality suites to run those some of the scripts on your own and auto heal those or self heal those. While if you look at AI landscape, if you're building any AI application, whether you're having a conversational bot, you have a deep learning program to forecast some trends, you have some multi-agent architecture to self learn and perform certain monotonous tasks, and there are some LLMs and SLMs beneath these agents. Eventually, if you look at the basis data, if your data is not accurate, if your data is not clean, if your data is too much noisy, you won't be able to get accurate results, in any form, of AI that you're using. And that's where it, becomes so important for any and every organization to look at your data as an index for making an organization data driven and making an organization AI driven. And that's where this slide talk about certain forms in where we are forcing and where we are hearing from our customers the most kind of the challenge and pain points. Another point I want to mention here is about the continuous validation, because it's not one-time job. I mean, you have your AI bots or agents or systems and applications running, but it requires a continuous validation. It requires a consistent approach to govern the data as your data is being changing, as your organizational data is evolving, as the data is scaling up. So in all the circumstances, you need a consistent and a continuous validation mechanism or technique, and that's what Datagaps provide you. Where you have a continuous monitoring, continuous observability. Any spikes happening, it gets notified, and there's so on, which Anand going to cover in his subsequent slides. So that's about this AIs. If I go to probably touch upon some of the challenges, which we can. So some of the challenges I talked about in my last slide is how and where data is required. What is the need of the data quality, and where the need of data data quality arose. This slide I want to talk about the real-time challenges which we hear from our customers. Whether data is not standardized, it's not in compliance with the common standards that's there. Big data, we are hearing it from probably like 15 years now. Data is humongous. They are in terabytes, petabytes. Every day your transactions are happening. You're processing the data. But then there is no way to monitor those pipelines, and your either pipelines is failing. You don't come to know where the glue jobs or ETL jobs are not happening right or correctly. It's not giving you right results, or you have set up some standards, some DQ checks or data quality checks at some place, but they're not giving you right results because the coverage is not appropriate. Or any kind of anomaly detections are happening, which is like kind of everybody knows. Cyber security is the key for data, and that's something is one of the key pillars that we take into consideration when we build these regulatory norms, around the data. So these are the very broad, high-level challenges what we hear from our customers. But then, of course, the list is prolonged, which we're going to touch upon in our success stories as well. But then the question comes, how are we going to solve these challenges? And that's where we as in TX and Datagaps, when we do get a partner, we try to build a end-to-end framework, to make sure, your data is 100% is, as soon as the data enters the ingestion layers, it's been screened, health check of the data is being done. You have appropriate, benchmarks. You have appropriate, your standards in place. As soon as it gets into your warehouse or whatever architecture you're following in your data analytics platform, as the data is being processed, through different layers, your data is being 100% tuned, validated, verified, and around all those quality checks that I talked about. And then once it goes towards, the BI layer or any kind of reporting tool that you're using for visualizing the trends based on data, it's being 100% accurate. I mean, and then everything happens in real time. And then you have, you're using any kind of governance tools you're using, whether it's Calibra, Luncheon, Atacama, or so on. You're defining your security policies and you're inheriting them correctly in Datagaps to run them and execute them in the way you want, in the way the business want. And that's where we're specialized in building this end-to-end frameworks to make sure the quality of the platform is 100% verified. There are some set SLAs, there are quality metrics being defined at each layer, and then the data is trust stable and it's in real time, and the change management is being considered. So that's certainly the solutions. We're going to talk in detail, and Anand going to touch in his slides about how and we execute all these solutions one by one. But I just want to touch upon some of the challenges which we hear from our customers, and I'm pretty sure you will be struggling, or you will be looking into it, or you will be hearing these kind of challenges day in day out.
All right. So thanks, Jatin. So let me talk about some of the ROI, right? The whole business impact. So this is about the return on investment, and let's walk through the ROI of automating data quality monitoring versus sticking with the manual methods. So here's a scenario. Imagine you're handling around 500 data feeds coming into your environment every week. So each data feed has around 100,000 rows of data, and each row has around 40 columns of data. So manually validating even a portion of this data takes time, money, and effort. So with automation, the same tasks are completed faster, more accurately, and with far fewer resources. So in our example here, automation reduces the time spent fixing the data issues from over 14,000 hours to just over 6,000. So this alone is a huge time saver, but it also reduces the total cost by nearly 370,000, more than a 50% cost savings. So you're cutting your cost by half. And when you compare that to the cost of setting up the automated system, the ROI is close to 9x, 821%. So that's not just good, it's exceptional. So the takeaway here is that automated data quality monitoring isn't just about fixing the data faster, it's about reducing the long-term costs, improving the operational agility, freeing up your team to focus on higher value work. So automation transforms this entire data quality management and monitoring process from a resource drain into a more of a strategic advantage, and the numbers are here to back it up. So results of automated quality. So let's talk about what happens when you put data quality automation into action. So first is accuracy. So we have seen companies achieve close to 100% accuracy, 99% say. So that means cleaner reports, better decisions, fewer fire drills. So when your data is consistently correct, everything from analytics to compliance just runs a lot smoother. Second is speed. So resolving these data quality issues may take days. Now, with automation, the resolution is down to hours or even minutes. So we have seen 50 to 70% faster resolution times, allowing the teams to respond to the quality problems before they escalate. The third is the resource savings. So when you automate all these quality checks, you don't need a huge team manually combing through all the data. In fact, companies have reduced their QA teams by up to 75%, freeing those same resources for more strategic tasks. And then there's the whole aspect of risk mitigation. So when your data quality process is proactive and documented, you're less likely to incur fines or fail any kind of audit. So some of our customers have avoided multi-million dollar penalties simply by catching the issues early. So putting all these things together, you get a whole lot of operational efficiency, faster cycles, fewer errors, and overall better outcomes. So bottom line is data quality automation isn't just about an IT upgrade, it's a business enabler. So let's look at some of the impact that our tool, Data Quality Monitor, has delivered. So at the center of all this is the reduced manual effort through automation. So the engine drives it all by automating the rule-based validation as well as the anomaly detection. Organizations have cut the manual monitoring by 75%, freeing up their data teams to focus on higher value work. On the left, we see faster issue resolution. So automated checks have reduced the fixing time for the issues by 50 to 70%, allowing teams to detect and resolve anomalies before they affect downstream systems or reports. And then you have enhanced data quality with 99.9% accuracy and teams gaining the confidence in their data, improving their analytics, reporting, and overall decision making. And on the right, you have risk mitigation, which is a major win. So early detection of data helps avoid costly compliance penalties, supports data governance across the enterprise. And then you have operational efficiency, which improves the validation, becomes faster, more consistent. Organizations see better turnaround time, reduced effort in maintaining the data pipelines. So in short, the data quality monitor delivers not just better data, but overall better business outcomes. So fewer surprises, more trust in the data, faster decisions with less manual effort. So this slide shows the three dimensions. First is data quality automation. So this is where your data quality rules live. So instead of writing scripts, your team uses a low-code wizard to generate those validation rules. Machine learning enhances these rules by spotting data drift and any unusual patterns based on historical trends. And through APIs, you can embed these data quality checks directly into your continuous integration, continuous development, or DevOps pipelines. So making the whole quality check process a part of every deployment. So whether you're deploying new ETL pipelines or BI dashboards, the quality check could be part of that pipeline. The second column is about monitoring and observability. So think of this as your data's health dashboard. The system continuously scores your data set for completeness, accuracy, uniqueness, and other dimensions. It uses statistical models and machine learning to detect any kind of unexpected shift in the data, sending alerts through channels like email or Slack. And you don't have to babysit your pipelines if something goes wrong. You will know immediately through these alerts. And the third is issue management. So here's where you take action on that insight, right? So any kind of failed rule can automatically create tickets in tools like Jira or some other issue tracking system, and you can link each of the test outcomes to internal workflows where you can prioritize them and track the resolution with full logs and error emails. So together, these three components form a closed loop system that improves the data quality, reduces the risk, and basically empowers your team with better tools to act fast and confidently. So this slide shows the flexibility and power of combining rule-based quality validation and observability across your entire data pipeline. So you can apply these data quality rules at any stage during data ingestion, after the data lands in the production systems like CRMs, or even when it's aggregated into your analytics tools. So if you have like a medallion architecture, you can insert data quality at each stage in the medallion architecture. So this flexibility means that you're not forced to wait until the data is downstream to catch issues. You can act early at ingestion time itself. So at ingestion, you can separate the good data from the bad data, either quarantining the errors or routing them to data stewards for further review. So that saves a lot of time and effort downstream. And in production, you're ensuring whatever is powering your applications is clean and reliable. And in analytics, you're validating the KPIs in the reports, both at individual KPI level as well as at a summary level to catch any kind of inconsistencies. And then there's the whole observability part. So this is the game changer. So instead of relying only on the predefined rules, you can use machine learning to monitor the data behavior over time. So this system learns what's normal and flags the anomalies automatically. So even the ones you didn't think to check for. So this is a feedback loop where these anomalies can then trigger new data quality rules. So when you combine the rules and the observability, you create a safety net that works across the entire data lifecycle. So it's proactive, it's dynamic, and built for today's complex environment. So here we are talking about a data quality scoring. So you imagine a single score that shows how healthy your data is instantly. So that's the power of a data quality monitor. So at the heart of the data quality monitor is the data quality score, a clear metric that reflects how trustworthy your data is across any level. So from individual columns of data to entire schema, the entire model. So this score is powered by rule-based validation that checks the dimensions of accuracy, completeness, conformity, and duplication against the business expectations. And DQM, Data Quality Monitor, goes further. So through data profiling, it uncovers deeper patterns, distributions, and any outliers, helping you understand not just the correctness, but the behavior. And then, as I said, data observability brings machine learning driven anomaly detection into the picture. It flags any trends that otherwise would go unnoticed. So giving you the edge to act before things escalate. And predictive monitoring learns from this historical data to foresee any potential problems, shifting you from reactive to proactive. And then we have this whole AI powered rule generation where you can define complex validations in seconds. So just describe your need and the system proposes precise rules using large language models. So everything integrates seamlessly into the CI/CD pipelines, making quality checks part of your deployment flows. And so you're getting a strategic advantage and have more control and confidence in your data operations. So data governance, shifting focus here, often feels like a checkbox. But with the right tools, it can become a strategic asset. So on the left, we have data dictionary and lineage. So Datagaps, for example, uses GenAI to automatically generate descriptions for columns and metadata. So you don't have to write definitions manually. So this brings a certain level of consistency across teams. It helps ensure everyone's speaking the same language when it comes to data. And then the whole lineage tracking shows where the data is originated, how it's transformed, where it's headed. And all this is critical for troubleshooting and impact analysis. Test results don't live in isolation. They tie into the broader data governance strategy, whether it's you're auditing the data, whether the compliance comes into the picture, or you're collaborating between business and IT, you have a unified picture. And then finally is the Unity catalog integration. And this we found is a must-have for Databricks users. And so Datagaps works with this whole authentication process, and you can apply rules directly to any of your assets managed by a data catalog. So it inherits the metadata, validates it in the context that it gets that metadata from. And so the governed data isn't just documented, it's actively verified. So these capabilities bridge the gap between documentation and execution, bringing governance to life with automation and intelligence. So here is the flow for an integration with Collibra. So this highlights how Data Quality Monitor integrates with Collibra to deliver governance and quality assurance. So at the heart of this is our ability to automate the entire data quality lifecycle, from profiling of the data and rule creation to the anomaly detection and issue resolution. So all while maintaining the full governance alignment through Collibra. So the data quality monitor enables teams to define and apply the business rules using a no-code interface. You can bring these rules in through the API. These rules validate the completeness, accuracy, consistency, and uniqueness of the data. Once issues are detected, the integration with Collibra kicks in. So automatically pushing data quality scores, any kind of rule violation, and issue the metadata into the Collibra data intelligence platform. So this allows the data stewards, owners, and analysts to collaborate on remediating and fixing that data directly within their overall governance workflow. So they gain visibility into which data sets are at risk, what rules are failing, what actions are taken, all in one unified view. So ultimately, this integration strengthens trust in enterprise data by bridging the technical validation with the business. So it ensures data quality isn't just monitored, but it's governed, documented, and continuously improved. So Jatin, over to you about the real world use cases.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Anand. So far you heard about what's the potential need for data quality and how data gaps meet those quality needs. Now I'm going to touch upon, let's look at how all this play out in the real world. So, there are several clients which we are providing our testing experts, and data gaps are working collaboratively in serving their needs and meeting their needs. I'll touch upon probably the couple of them today. In healthcare, there's no surprises. Like there are some regulatory terms. So how we are validating their 150 rules per file across 18 plus states. So there's a humongous data coming in, and how we are validating the data and making it compliant with HIPAA and other standards. We're working with certain marketing firms where we have terabytes and petabytes of data. Every day it's processes around 10 plus sources of data, and how we are hitting them with 99.9% accuracy, with resolution time being squeezed to 70%. And then there are some financial firms, banks, where we are supporting their data quality needs to make sure their reputation, their output of the quality campaigns, and everything is accurate. So let me touch upon the first one in detail, a little bit detail in the next slide. So this is a success story for one of the leading payment and data company in Georgia, Atlanta. And when we started working with them, they had several vendors coming in. They collect the data, they massage the data, clean the data, and then sell it to leading banks in states to set up their promotional campaigns. The challenge that they were probably facing was one, when the data was, they were like losing reputation amongst the, because of the two reasons. One, the data which they were providing to the banks, that was not accurate. Social media data, my name has been written 10 different places in different instances, and social media, your credit agencies, and there's no unification. And when data is going towards this marketing campaign to the bank, and they're shooting up the emails, the emails are not landing to the right people, or there's so much false positive or false rates there. So that was eventually ruining their image and ruining their reputation. And then second, the data engineers were spending a lot of efforts and time in doing manual testing of the ETL jobs, and doing data validation in some capacity, doing some sampling approach they were following, which is a traditional kind of an approach. And then eventually they were not getting those results, and it piled up the frustration at every level. The banks, they started complaining and saying, hey, we're not getting the right data from you, and there started the conflicts management and all that stuff. And then the company wanted to onboard 12 customers in a quarter. That was their target, and then they were just able to onboard 4 vendors in a quarter, because of the reason everything was manual and there was a lot of redundancy work being done, and the coverage was almost negligible. So because of all that stuff, when we went and we did some assessments for their data organization. We mapped it out, their data organization, with DMMI standards, looked at into how the data is being managed, where the data is coming in, what are the hygiene checks they follow, what are the health checks they follow. And then once we did an entire assessment, we understood their landscape and then divided those issues and challenges into 3 buckets: P1, P2, P3. And then we started fixing those, in a way that were aligned towards the right people, the skill sets, the technology and the tools, and then the processes. We fixed the process by using governance platform of Datagaps and Atlassian, which they were using, and we fixed their validation stuff with Datagaps in-house capabilities to test and run those query pairs with the help of low-code and AI-driven mechanisms that gives them the coverage. We fixed their skill set because we provided the right people, who understand their technology and who understand the process very well. So 3 things were fixed, and then eventually when we built this entire framework, right from the beginning till the end, till your reporting layer, we were able to bring the coverage, significantly improved coverage from 2% to 99% because of automation. And we saved their time from data engineers who were doing manual efforts, and they can do a lot of other work in terms of data engineering, which they were supposed to do. We were able to improve their speed to market, because they were able to just onboard 3 customers in a quarter, and their target was 12. And eventually, with all this automated, semi-autonomous processes, they were able to onboard more customers in less time. And then eventually all the conflicts get resolved because the data was coming up cleanly. Now, the other thing that here, the challenge that we were having was the synthetic data, because the data between production and there was, because it was a bank, so there's a lot of regulatory norms. You can't test the production data. You have to mask it based on certain regulations. So we used a tool for them to bring the data down to lower environments. Then we synthesize the data, mask the data, and then eventually we use to clean the data with the help of this entire technology stack. So this is one of the success story I want to talk about. I want to touch upon. There's so many granularities and so many technical depth that I want to talk about. But I think this we have a limited time right now. But would love to talk in detail in the private chats. If there's any questions that come up on how we solve their challenges on data quality. Moving to the next one, I'll probably briefly touch upon the health insurance company. This is a company where they had some specific regulatory norms. So it was under this No Surprises Act, insurance are required to submit your specific data sets, claims provider, members eligibility at the state level. So each state has its own rules. So, and the client had to validate all those, 150, 200 checks per file every month for respective states. And there are about 8 states where, 18 plus states where this health insurance company was supporting. Now you can see how much the humongous data it was and how comprehensive or complex process it would be if you start looking at each file, each record, each data asset, each metadata, in your manual fashion or sampling way, and eventually the results are null. So Datagaps and TX, they built a tailored solution to meet their, we provide their state-specific rule templates. We baked it into their data pipelines. Then we set up those rules engine in such a way that they can be triggered automatically with any CI tools or through Datagaps. And then the setup was low code, because as you just saw from Anand, it's a low code platform that you can drag and drop and write down your queries, or even you can use GenAI, who can read your stored procedures and generate some queries out of those. And eventually, while doing all that stuff, we were able to, in deployment time, we were able to drop by 60%. We use DQ Monitor to, monitor their pipelines continuously, constantly. Any spikes come in, any kind of abnormalities come in, it was directly handed over, the notified at the right time before it caused any damage in downstream applications. And that's how we were able to solve the problem, and they can easily scale up their operations to several other states. So that's something too I want to touch upon. There are several other case studies. There's so much stuff to talk about, but I know we have limited time, so I don't want to hijack this session towards the success stories. I'll touch upon briefly on the TX and Datagaps partnership before I hand it over there. So TestingXperts, we are one of the world top 3 digital assurance companies as per the leading analyst firms who have been rated us. We have strong partnership with Datagaps. We have certified Datagaps professionals, tooling professionals. These are some of the customers that we are providing services to in the past several years. Almost 20 plus engagements we are under the belt between Datagaps and TX, where we are supporting our customers across the globe. So that's, and then certainly we are being a partner with certain top-notch cloud companies, give us leverage to leverage their tools as well. So that's something I want to talk about. I'll take a pause here and hand it over to Pooja and Anand for further processing.
Great. So thank you, Jatin, for those very, very impactful case studies. And so I wanted to close. So as we close today's session, so let's bring it all together. So what we have seen is that data quality is not just an operational chore. It's a business imperative. When your data is trusted, timely, and complete, your entire organization moves faster, makes smarter decisions, reduces any costly risks. So through our real-world examples, through the insurer tackling APCD compliance, or any of the other firms, to fintech firms optimizing their AI model training, we have shown how automated data quality and reconciliation across different stages deliver value. We are talking about improving the data accuracy to 99.9%, faster resolution of issues, 50 to 70% faster, 75% reduction in manual QA resources, and millions saved in avoided compliance penalties. So even an 821% ROI, so a 9x, close to 9x ROI from automation, as shown in the slide that I had earlier from a calculator that we have. And so, more importantly, we have shown how improving quality can evolve. So with data gaps, it's no longer a reactive process. It becomes intelligent, continuous, fully integrated into your DevOps pipelines, as well as your entire governance and analytics ecosystem. So what's next? You can start by identifying your biggest friction points in your current data pipelines. So think about where your team spends time chasing errors or validating the reports. So that's where automation and observability can make an immediate impact. So let's build a pipeline that's not just functional, but intelligent, auditable, and ready for future updates. So let's build this pipeline together. So we have covered a lot. Now it's your turn. I would like to hear what questions, challenges, or any opportunities we can answer and before we wrap up. So Pooja, over to you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Anand and Jatin, for an incredibly insightful session. Your expertise and practical perspectives on data quality and governance gave our audience valuable takeaways they can immediately apply. Now, we are open for Q&A, and we have very first question is, what about the MDM process? It is being asked while Jatin was sharing the case study. So maybe Jatin, you could answer the session.
So definitely MDM is the best way to finalize and trust the golden set of data, and that certainly is the area where there are two ways. One is you build those master data management capabilities, whether you're using your own in-house custom operations or custom program, or if you are using tools in the likes of Atacama, or that gives you MDM capabilities, and then once you have those MDM, then you can manage it through that particular operations. You can trust those data assets. You can bring on all your metadata, bring all your data assets in the MDM tool. You can run them, and further divide it into your different metadata, mechanisms. So all this can be done, and that's the best way to synthesize and use the data to evaluate the trustable component in the data set. So that certainly are the capabilities that is the key element that you have to build and you should build as a part of your data quality pipeline.
Great. Thanks, Jatin. Now, next question is, why is real-time data quality monitoring important for modern enterprises? Anyone?
I'll take that question. So, real-time or near real-time data quality is important because you want to detect those issues as they occur. So we talked about how we need to make these time-sensitive decisions with fresh data. And when you catch these data errors right at ingestion, you're preventing these expensive errors happening when data goes further downstream into the reports, the analytics on any kind of downstream system. So by immediately alerting and taking issue resolution proactively, you're essentially making all these transformation initiatives as well as any kind of compliance and operational processes much more transparent and reducing your overall expenses and risk. Pooja?
You're on mute, I guess.
I'm so sorry. Next is, how does automation reduce the burden on data quality teams? So,
Yeah, I'll take that. So one of the things, so as I said, right, in the ROI and the benefits slides that I went over, all this automation is reducing several manual steps in the testing process, whether it is test creation, and you're automating that with GenAI, and as well as test execution, where you're executing a far greater set of data than what you were previously validating and testing. So if you were validating, say, 10% of your entire data set, now you're validating 90 or even close to 100% of your data set. So what you're doing with automation is you're replacing the repetitive manual testing with all these scalable workflows, and we scale with Spark and other engines. So you're improving the accuracy, you're reducing the human error, you're shortening the entire cycle across all these pipelines, and this allows you to free up any resources for much more strategic initiatives. Think about how you can incorporate, maybe more semi-structured data or unstructured data or data from other sources. And you're essentially, with automation, you're pushing things faster, and you can integrate it with your CI/CD pipelines, make any kind of version upgrades or deployment or any kind of tool upgrades much faster. So you're basically ensuring that there's consistent data quality when all these changes are happening. Pooja?
great. Thanks. Yeah. And next is, what role does GenAI play in data quality management?
Yeah. So Jatin touched on it a little bit, and I'd like to elaborate on what Datagaps provides. So first is we are able to auto-generate the data quality rules rather, where you can type in the rules that you want in place in natural language, and the Datagaps platform is able to translate that into actual quality rules and validations. And these validations, enhance the existing quality. We also have machine learning playing a role in anomaly detection, detecting any kind of patterns, irregular patterns. And this whole GenAI allows non-technical users, say, think of a compliance person or a data steward, to build these quality checks. And it enables any kind of new data feeds and sources into the architecture. So if you have a data mesh or a data fabric architecture, you're onboarding many new data products from these different architectures into the entire ecosystem that your company has available to it. So it basically, you're reducing dependence on highly technical resources with GenAI.
Great.
Pooja?
Thanks. One more last question is, why is data quality crucial for AI and machine learning models?
Yeah. So now everyone wants to, create their own small language models that are very relevant to their particular business domain. So in order to prevent any kind of bias in these models or any kind of inaccurate predictions, we ensure that clean data goes into training these models. You need to reduce the time spent on cleaning these data sets, so that the models can be very trustworthy and accountable, and also explainable, right? So in order for all these things to happen for your small language models within your corporation, you need this high quality data that is well documented and thoroughly cleaned and be cleaned at scale, because you want your models to be trained on as much data as possible. So it's imperative to automate this entire process for your AI and machine learning efforts. Pooja?
Okay. So yeah, we are running on time, but still we have 2-3 more questions. Can we take them up, or would you like to answer them offline? Yeah, should I take them?
Yeah, I think it's a minute left, so we'll take one question.
Okay. Yeah. How does observability enhance traditional data validation? This is
So observability and validation go hand in hand. It's like a continuous feedback loop. So you continuously monitor the data, not just snapshots of the data. So as you continuously monitor, you detect the patterns, you detect any kind of anomalies and drift in the data in real time, and then you add transparency into where and why a particular pipeline is failing. You support any kind of trend analysis. And so this entire observability complements rule-based checks. So you are accelerating, identifying any kind of root causes, and then feeding that back into the data quality rules.
great. Thanks. Thanks, Anand. Yeah, thanks, Anand and Jatin. So at last we have a call to action. If you have any more queries, you can definitely contact to us and send your queries to contact@datagaps.com. Also, you can connect with Jatin and Anand on LinkedIn. They are very well active on LinkedIn, on their LinkedIn profile, and you can ask anything, anytime to them. Thank you, Jatin and Anand, and all the attendees. With this, I just close the webinar today.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for attending.
For further questions, feel free to reach contact@datagaps.com. Request a free demo. Scan the QR code below. Thank you.